And then that leaves the other projects that are either of the fact that you can't borrow for them, or they're of such small expenses that you want to pay for it out of existing funds or existing appropriations. And I went back and I tried to identify and said, well, we don't have a certified free cash, but what would I like to do? And I would estimate about $200,000 to $250,000 in these small capital projects that would be paid for through non-borrowing sources. And I also would want to reserve an amount of money for the April town meeting in unspent free cash. You'll recall we had about $150,000 in unspent free cash going into the April 2009 town meeting. It's a wise and a prudent financial strategy to retain, and I'm going to say about $200,000 for the April town meeting to deal with any budgetary problems that come up at that time. So recommendations that we'll be following in this plan will kind of be constrained on the fact that we don't want to spend every nickel that we have in available funds. We want to retain some of that money, and we would estimate about $250,000 to $200,000 in non-bondable costs going forward. So, any questions about that kind of general strategy in terms of how we look at this?
Yeah, just a question regarding the bonding amount. Have you set some debt service limit on that? I mean,
Not yet.
how are you arriving at
Not
a
yet.
ceiling for a bonded project?
Not yet. Not yet. This is the intent of my presentation this evening, is to get your input on projects that you feel are important, critical to the town. And then when I come forward with my recommendations to the board meeting into town meeting, we'll complete the strategy in terms of how we fund those sources. So.
Well, I see items on here marked 1s, 2s, and
Yep.
3s. So you have ranked
Yeah.
these based on
Based upon
your interpretation?
Based upon a combination of our meeting with department heads, and we had a good discussion, and also what I think we should realistically be looking for. So, if you see any of those 1s, 2s, and 3s that look in any way out of order, then it's important for me to know that. I think that I need to really present a capital plan that's acceptable to the board, so I won't be offended if you say that a number 3 should be a number 1.
Well, when I look at this, and I look at, let's start with the police department, okay?
Yeah.
I understand Mark Cruiser replacement program, and you picked 2 for a reason. I'm not questioning that at this point. But cruiser communication equipment, I don't know what that is. Similarly, the fire department vehicle replacement program, I don't know which vehicle they're replacing.
Let me go through those. Let's start with the police department. We have 2 proposals. One is for $58,000 for the Mark Cruiser replacement program. It would entail replacement of 2 vehicles, and according to the chief, he did make a request. Typically, this is addressed at the April town meeting. However, his warrant request was not acted upon at the April or during June town meeting session. So the cost would include all of the necessary safety and operational equipment associated with the vehicles. This would be again, a marked vehicle. It would not be something that would be a administrative vehicle, and the vehicles that were being replaced have high mileage and high idling hours, although I don't see what those are. And one of the options that he's put forward is that we could enter into a lease purchase agreement of either 2 or 3 years if we wish to reduce the capital outlay. My inclination would be not to do that, but that's one of the suggestions that he's made.
My biggest question was cruiser communication equipment. What is that?
Purchase of 7 mobile radio units. Each police vehicle has a mobile radio system. In 2008, the federal government assigned 700 megahertz radio band frequency for public safety. They've been in the process of a conversion. An internal audit of mobile and portable radios was done to determine their level of compliance, and it was determined as a result of this audit that we must replace 7 of the mobile vehicle radios at a cost of $3,800 per, which includes installation. So he looks at it as being a compliance issue to comply with the federal, state, and regional public safety communications regulations.
Is that something that falls into the area of available grants? You know, a lot of these requirements that came out of Homeland Security basically so everyone could communicate with everybody in an emergency, and making funds available for some of this stuff.
I don't think so, and we don't control the schedule of that. I think the chief's intention is to kind of get this on his list for funding, so that he doesn't have any interruptions in communications within the department.
Okay, any other questions on that?
No, not a question but only that I might want to swap Greg's numbers and put number 1 to the cruisers. Because as we know, once we get out of the cycle of, you know, replacing, we end up with cruisers with 130, 140,000 miles on them. I just, personally, I might just turn those numbers around, but.
Well, you don't have to turn them around. You can make the cruiser a 1-2.
Oh.
This is not a 1-2. This is where it ranks as a top priority or a lower priority, et cetera.
And I guess personally, I'd make them both a 1 then. That's just me. I don't know.
Anybody else?
The rest of the board,
In terms of cruiser replacement, has this been the program, to replace 2 per year?
Yeah, we've missed a year or 2 along the way, and
Yeah.
you end up paying for it in additional repair costs and blown engines, and it's been a-
Last year, did they receive two cruisers in addition to the 2 motorcycles and the SUV?
No,
I can find that out.
no.
No, I don't
The
think so.
SUV replaced one of the cruisers,
And I think that was
and they may have only purchased the one. I don't think they got a car.
remember.
And then this was supposed to be this past April, which has been put off for 6
Right.
months. So we're starting to get out of the cycle, but I believe the SUV replaced a cruiser.
So they only replaced 1 in FY09?
I don't recall specifically.
it. We can, would you find that out for the discussions? Okay, and the fire department vehicle replacement program, what are they replacing? What are they asking to replace?
This was the chief's vehicle, wasn't it, rusting or something?
Yeah, hang on. Police department vehicle, fire chief vehicle is a 2001. It's got 125,000 miles of emergency and normal vehicle usage. The vehicle is a 4x4 utility vehicle. It's been in the capital improvement program for at least 3 fiscal years. It's been passed over. It's at the point now where we really do need to seriously address it. It's been on our capital improvement plan, and we've replaced a lot of different vehicles in those 3 years. So the requested amount is $40,000, and it would be specifically for the fire department administration vehicle.
Okay, and Westside Fire Station, we need not talk about.
Yeah, that's a design cost is what they would be looking for, and I don't have an amount associated with that.
Parks and Recreation, sports field conversion and lighting, private funding and no amount.
Right, the Recreation Commission had originally put in a placeholder for lighting.
Why would they need it if it's privately funded?
That's my note. That's my note, so you know that there's no funding request for town meeting.
And it's a, I say, it's a priority 1 for Parks and Recreation.
Correct. their only priority.
All right.
They've got their hands full. In good spot, and, some other funds to get it done.
Public Works,
Yep.
replace 1-ton pickup truck, replace 3/4-ton pickup truck with plow, replace 1-ton dump truck. All priority, oh, I'm sorry,
No, it's
it's
for
only one.
one-ton pickup, right?
1-ton pickup truck, okay.
Right.
Give me a second. Town road program is, we just funded last time around, right? We bonded
We did.
money.
We funded an amount at the October 2009 town meeting.
And that was on top of the Chapter 90 money.
Yes, it was.
Perhaps we should give our new Public Works Director a shot at looking this over and also evaluating where we are and maybe come back to us
Certainly.
at our next meeting with his view and assessment of things.
I would only add that the 1-ton truck is 14 years old. We did replace the vehicle last year. It was non-functional and non-operational.
I remember the pictures, the
Yeah,
grass growing up.
The weeds growing out of it.
All right. I'm not questioning that. I'm basically more concerned with the road program, where are we status on the Park Street Bridge? And,
Yeah, the Park Street Bridge, just to get into it, I think it's something that we still need to do, but I'm not convinced that with the new director coming on board, that there isn't federal funding through the tip list. Where it gets put on the federal list of federal projects, and until we thoroughly vet that process out, I agree it's important, but there's a possibility we can see grant money to do the work.
yeah, now, that road is not a state road, right, Park Street?
It's not a state road, but I do know that the Public Works and the engineer is seeking reclassification of that road. It was originally not designated as a connector road, and to be designated for federal funding, you have to be called quote-unquote a connector road. And Representative Jones' office is assisting in that effort.
Yeah, that should be done, yeah. I mean, that would, you know, my office is up in Westford on 110, and, you know, it's been a nightmare getting up and down that road as they're doing major drainage and reconstruction in the area where the office is, and there's a big sign, this is being funded by ARRA funding, and I'm saying, where's our share of this,
Right.
you know?
Because the bridge was deemed to be too short.
Yes.
Right.
They changed the standard, we fell short. We previously met the standard, but they've changed the standard.
No, I understand that, I'm just saying, well, you know,
But
we
the
got a
rest
new
of the-
director.
but the rest of that road
Take
is-
another look
is a
at it,
mess.
and maybe he's got some ideas, that might come up with some ideas. I'd like to give him a chance to look at the current priorities and come back and report to us.
Quick question on Park Street being or not being a state road. Do you mean specifically where the bridge is? Because is 62 a state road?
Yeah, yes, but,
Specifically where the bridge is, because technically it's on the turn.
That's not 62.
no, it's not 62.
Right.
It's Park
No,
Street.
I understand. Park Street is part of 62.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I
but
see what you're saying.
you see, because
Yeah.
it turns. There you
Yeah,
go.
no,
62 is winter.
That's not the.
You're talking
state
about
road.
by the dancing school, I believe. That turn
Yeah.
right there, and that's not 62.
Right, and that's what we're talking about.
But I think we're confident that we'll get it designated as a connector road.
Connector, right.
And the way to do that is to invite out the state officials who make that decision to be out there at 7:30 in the morning someday, and I think they'll come to a quick conclusion that that's indeed a connector road.
So now we get to town buildings, and I see building on the common, exterior building rehab, $280,000.
A year ago, there was a study that was done. It was done by KBA Associates, which is an architect. They identified some priority projects associated with the building on the common, including replacement of the building, if that's an option that we decided to pursue. This proposal would be for the amount of $280,000. It would be to replace or repair all of the existing clapboards and trim, replace all the windows, doors, repair the